What I've got for you today is the grand finals of the StarCraft Evolution League. This is a best of 9 series of Terran versus Protoss for the lion's share of $6,100. I'm very excited for this because, of course, we have StarCraft 2 taking on StarCraft 1. We're in the top left-hand corner, playing with the StarCraft 2 Terran SCVs. We're looking inside of the main base of TaeJa. And his opponent down in the bottom right with the red Protoss pieces. He's playing, of course, with the Brood War units. We're looking inside of the main base of Classic. Now, Classic, one of the absolute best Protoss players in the world in StarCraft 2 right now. I would probably consider him, at the moment at the very least, slightly above the likes of, for example, mech specs at Hero, meaning that I consider, Classic to be the highest ranked Protoss player on the planet at the moment. He's been an absolute monster, but I have no idea how good he is when it comes to playing Brood War. But considering he made it to the grand finals of this tournament after many rounds of play, I can imagine he's certainly going to be quite good. Now, I did recently cast the semifinals match where TaeJa ended up winning over Rogue. And I think across the board, TaeJa just looked incredibly strong. I was very impressed with the way that TaeJa played the Brood War units in particular. It was just so much fun to see this variety of timing attacks. Lots of, well, one base all-ins, two base shenanigans, different attacks that the other players in StarCraft Evolution really haven't been utilizing as much. TaeJa, of course, an absolute legend from the early days of StarCraft 2, especially like 2013, 2014. That's when he won the vast majority of, just StarCraft 2 tournaments, period. That's not just when he won the most tournaments, but it's also when he won probably more than 50% of all the premier events. The guy was an absolute beast. And it's gonna be fun to see him go up against somebody like Classic. Now, of course, one thing to note is that Classic has been playing StarCraft 2 for about as long as I remember. He had to take a little bit of a break. Of course, the Koreans have to go and do their military service at some point. Both of the players here have already done it, and lucky for us, Classic managed to climb back again after being forced to take a little bit of a break. Now, it looks like we're starting off with the good old Dragoon ranged upgrade. Okay, the Singularity Spike is coming up right here for Classic. He did go for a fast expansion. He's going to need a unit out. Of course, no Chrono Boost available in StarCraft 1. But it looks like, indeed, we are going to be able to get that Dragoon out in time, and he's going to be able to shoot this unit away. Nowhere to run. Okay. Now, Dragoon counterattacks are always sketchy. These units just hit very hard, especially if you expect them to hit like a Stalker would. I feel like you're in for a nasty surprise, because these units seem to just deal a little bit more damage across the board, but of course, they do not have a blink. Probe has been scouting around here for a little while. Bunker coming up right now as well here for TaeJa. He's gonna need it. Those Marines, by the way, have a bit of a different skin. I think what happened here is that TaeJa, I mean, he's playing StarCraft 2, but TaeJa here probably adjusted the skin in the collections panel of StarCraft 2. So they look a little bit more, I think this is the Humagen skin, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, don't ask me on the name exactly, but it kind of looks like a StarCraft 1 Marine more so than a StarCraft 2 one. Either way, he's definitely playing SC2 as he's now also getting a Banshee going. Not a unit that is, of course, available in StarCraft Brood War. Yeah, and this is very reminiscent of the way that Brood War is usually played, right? This dance between the Dragoons and the bunker and the SCVs repairing it in the back, waiting until the Dragoons get their shields depleted and then slowly microing them backwards. In the meantime, by the way, on the other side of the map, we have a Robo Bay coming up together with a good old shuttle. So this is looking an awful lot like a Reaver drop. Now, Reaver drops, we don't see them in StarCraft 2. I mean, I guess you can maybe go for like a Disruptor drop or something along those lines, but Reaver drops are an absolute classic. Ooh, Siege Tank now available. An absolute classic, of course, in StarCraft 1. Banshee going in, cloaking upgrade just about to finish up. Not a whole lot of detection available here at the moment. He did make an observatory, so at the very least, the Robo facility can go ahead and produce some units, but no recall, no easy way to get these troops back home. Really, your only options here as Protoss are to run the probes and hope for the best. Observer, though, is going to pop out, and that's going to make the defense manageable, but already a ton of damage is being done. TaeJa following this up with the Hyperflight Rotors. Now, this is not something we very commonly see, but I kind of love it. It's the speed upgrade for the Banshee, and I would imagine that means he's going to be adding on maybe even a third. I don't think it's really worth getting both the cloak as well as the speed upgrade if you're only going to go for 2. Well, we'll have to find out. He is going, by the way, into what almost looks like a mech follow-up. At the very least, he's getting a Cyclone for now. Of course, Cyclone mech in general, very popular. In StarCraft 2, we rarely see Cyclone and Battle Mech in general against Protoss because of the fact that the Immortal exists. But no such option here for Classic, who's now going to be firing up the good old Slug. It's going to take a little bit before it comes out. Obviously, it's expensive. It's one of the absolute slowest moving units in the entire game, and that's where the shuttle comes in. The idea is to pick it up in the shuttle and then drop it behind the opponent's mineral line and hope to deal a whole lot of damage. And I don't know exactly what upgrade this is, but I assume it's one of the Reaver upgrades. We'll get the name of it when it's close to finishing on the right side of the screen. There are, of course, those little scarabs that you have to produce inside of the Reaver just to be able to get the thing to fire. Okay. It's been really fun, man, to get an update on every single one of these units. There it is. Oh, yeah, look at how slow it is. It has a little hand coming out of the mouth of the thing. Maybe this is actually gravitic drive. Now that I think about it, it's a different icon. But if I'm not mistaken, now I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to StarCraft 1 build orders, but I'm pretty sure you usually go for this push only with the shuttle speed upgrade. So this could be gravitic drive. It has a, yeah, it is. It's the same name as the StarCraft 2 upgrade for the Warp Prism speed, but obviously this is not a Warp Prism. This is basically just like a Medivac, right? It's the same thing. All right, anyways. Medivac minus the healing. Nice little bit of damage here, but you gotta be so cautious. Lock on right here as well onto the shuttle. There is a little bit of a stun, as you can see, on the Reaver. Oh, jeez. Pick it up, pick it up. Oh, my lord, he got it done. That's crazy. There is a little bit of a delay when you first drop down the Reaver. Great control right there by Classic, man. He actually navigated the 2 parts brilliantly. Super cool. There is a little bit of a delay because with the way that StarCraft 2 pathing works, it would just be a bit too much. But that was incredibly reminiscent of the way that StarCraft 1 usually gets played. It's one of the most exciting things in SC1 if you've ever watched the game, the way that top-level players micro their Reavers and their shuttles, and it really looked like everything was gonna go horribly wrong, as we, by the way, do have mass Banshee production here for TaeJa. He's adding on additional factories, too. We have the Magfield Accelerator upgrade, the Cyclone Lock-on upgrade, finishing up right now as well. Dude, he's going from mass Banshee into mass Terran mech, and with both cloak as well as speed, he can just sort of contest this. I mean, I don't know if you want to, though. That's kind of my question here. Is it really a good idea to use these units for knocking down the amount of Dragoons that are out on the battlefield? It doesn't seem like it would be worthwhile. Either way, Kydarian Amulet coming up right now. That is the upgrade that allows the High Templar to spawn with more energy. So they will spawn with enough energy to actually have a storm ready to go. Isn't broken in StarCraft 1 so much because, well, you can't warp in High Templar. Back in the early days of StarCraft 2, we had that ability as well. We had that same upgrade, and basically you could just warp in a High Templar and instantly cast Storm, and I guess nowadays you can kind of do that again with the energy recharge ability, but anyways, it works a little bit differently. In Brood War, you have to make every single one of those Templar just out of the good old gateway, and it takes a while to produce. Dude, having the Banshee as part of, like, your core unit composition is very interesting. He's making more and more. Zealot run by, though, is successful. Not getting a ton of damage done, but the command center did get cancelled for just a little bit. Looks like the Reaver drags his way all the way back home. So slow. Why didn't God give you more than one hand, dude? Why do you have a hand coming out of your mouth? Alright, now the Dragoons, though, do get into a really good position. If you only have one hand and it happens to come out of your mouth, that's just unlucky. That's just bad IRL RNG. Although I don't really know anything about the lore of Protoss. Maybe they were created, I don't know. Either way, the Banshees are still roaming the battlefield. You can see that the StarCraft 1 Protoss is just not as mobile, right? Like, it's just lacking that oomph. In StarCraft 2, the units would be blinking around, we would be seeing recall right now, but the Banshees are going to be able to, well, fight for like half a minute before finally the defenses arrive. And even though they don't do a lot of damage, it does accumulate over the course of time. Command centers right now added into the mix as well. Additional factories coming up. Infernal Pre-Igniter, which is the blue flame upgrade for the Banshees. Or for the Hellions, rather. Dang, it'd be sick if it was for Banshee. Coming up too. Oh, we had... Sorry, let me just back up for a little bit. Nice reaction speed by TaeJa, it looks like. But the shuttle did sneak around the side. It's 2 High Templar and 2 Zealots. So we had a little bit of a storm drop. Now, I think one of the reasons, though, why the reaction speed was quite good here from TaeJa is that Classic opted to drop out one of the Zealots first. You should have certainly dropped down the Templar first, right? To get the storm down as quickly as possible and then let the Zealots maybe clear up some of the remnants. Either way, 7 SCVs go down, but so do the Templar, so do the Zealots. And I don't think that's really a bad trade for TaeJa at all, whose economy is still looking extremely solid. And I gotta say, thus far, this is a very competitive match. We are now 11 minutes in, and the players seem to be on point, right? Like, this is not a game that is over. We see quite a few mistakes as well from the both of them. Improvements, I guess I should call them, where, yeah, I think across the board, the both of them could have microed just a little bit better. And that's mostly, I guess, a lack of experience. Neither player is going to be... Oh, that storm animation is so freaking cool. Neither player is going to be as comfortable playing this game as they would be playing StarCraft 2. Classic, by the way, going full Protoss by using the all-army hotkey, sending the Zealots into the main to try and get rid of the Banshees. I wish him good luck. Zealots, in the meantime, though, having a good time inside of the main base of the Terran, at least. Getting a good bit of damage done and maybe evening the odds. The Banshees are going to try and work on their biggest project thus far. I don't think they're going to be able to kill the Nexus, but maybe they can come back home and, well, get some repairs and try again a little bit later. In the meantime, the far bottom left-hand corner has been taken as well. Man, the Zealots just walking around with their Zealot leg enhancements is actually kind of cool. I like the way in which they charge an SC2. Oh, that's a juicy storm. Oh, he didn't storm it. Oh, I would have stormed that 100%. Probably lost the Templar, though, so maybe it's not a good idea. In the meantime, there's a little bit of a Zealot run by 2 on the other side of the map. Storm in SC1 just deals a lot of damage. It deals more damage than Storm in StarCraft 2. So even though it maybe is not ideal against siege tanks, it's not a terrible idea. Because what else are you going to storm? Well, I guess he really wants to go after the Banshees and maybe some of the flimsier units. Speaking of Banshees, though, those are the ones hiding on the left. Can we actually get some of the siege tank shells onto the Templar? Well, so far, it's all a little bit messy. And TaeJa is making his way to create a chokehold on this base. Mass Zealot reinforcements, though, are coming up for Classic, who has a lot of money in the bank. He needs to pull the trigger at some point. Dancing in the storm are all of those High Templar. Problem is, those siege tanks are still not messing around, and he doesn't have any Skytles units, right? If he would have been able to get some carriers out, for example, this may have looked very different, but the idea, I guess, here for Classic is to just throw more bodies at the siege tanks. And while usually Zealots in SC2 would be able to charge at them quite conveniently, it seems that all of the StarCraft 1 Zealots do not really share that luxury. They make their way there eventually, but quite a few of their brothers go down before getting to that point. Siege tanks right now move forward. I mean, this is just like a wall of tanks. How do you break it? They don't even really need to siege up. 9 additional gateways coming up, by the way, for Classic. Building them wherever he can fit them, because he's likely going to be losing a lot of the main. In the meantime, we do have the shuttle going in as well. Main base is starting to get overwhelmed here on the side of TaeJa. He's going to get some of his units stormed, but in the meantime, look at this. The siege tanks here of TaeJa are also tearing apart. The natural expansion now of the Protoss here is already gone. Classic did take the far top right as well as the far bottom left. Some of his workers there are on idle. We still have the Banshees going to town. Some of them are going to indeed get stormed to death. Archon coming up. We've got ourselves a very competitive game here, but I think TaeJa is just looking a little bit sharper around the game, right? I mean, he's just performing a little bit cleaner. He seems to be more confident in his unit composition, whereas Classic is second-guessing himself a little bit. The call to go into mass Banshee, mass siege tank was indeed the right one against this very ground-based focused army for Classic, and TaeJa again proving to us that I think he's still got it. Even though we may have not seen him play much over the last decade, it's clear that he's been putting in the work for this particular tournament. I've mentioned this a few times already in previous videos, but we have indeed another big StarCraft Evolution tournament starting up very soon. And actually, maybe by the time that this video goes up on YouTube, GG gets cold. The series is already started, but there's a $15,000 tournament on the horizon at this point. TaeJa, he's been working towards a win. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Pylon. Right at the very start of the game, Classic decides to send out a worker. Now, a couple corrections, by the way, from one of the previous videos of StarCraft Evolution that I've made thus far. Hyper1 mentioned that he is certainly not the only guy working on the mod. I wasn't entirely sure if there was like a development team or if he was mostly doing it himself, but apparently the development team is headed by Cat, and a lot of people are working on it. So there's actually quite a few folks that are contributing designs and helping out with all of the different units. It's very nice to see that there is an active working community for a mod like this. So Hyper1 himself is currently the head of multiplayer balance, which is also pretty nice to see. And in one of the games that I did cast before, we had indeed the Nova Covert Ops OST playing in the background. It was a StarCraft 2 song that I was not familiar with. And apparently that was indeed added to the game by Avex before he ended up leaving the team. But he also added and cleaned up a bunch of the stuff from Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, Legacy of the Void, and just a bunch of the tunes to add into the game. Apparently there's quite a few music tracks that Blizzard made, used for the campaigns, but then never really added to the multiplayer version of the game. So I think the majority of the songs we're very used to in SC2 are all from Wings of Liberty, but there's some really cool ones as well. From, for example, the Nova Covert Ops that they never quite got around to adding. Just in general, though, there's a lot of changes made, and a lot of the units are indeed different. It's very cool to see. Such a fun mod thus far. All right, anyways, it's now TaeJa playing with the good old StarCraft 1 Terran, and Classic gets to enjoy his StarCraft 2 Protoss. And like I said, he's an absolute monster right now. Classic, in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, but he's not really the most creative Protoss player out there. I think across the board, that title would probably go to somebody like Hero. Hero, in general, a bit more flexible. But I mean, Hero didn't make it to the grand finals of this tournament, so I'm guessing Classic has indeed been working quite a bit as well on his StarCraft 1 Protoss. But usually, right, you have the players that are extremely... like, they kind of treat StarCraft 2 like an Excel spreadsheet, and they basically grind out every single possibility. The likes of, for example, Serral come to mind, maybe like a MaxSpecs. I don't think anybody would really consider them to be like the most creative players in the entire game. And they might struggle a little bit more on a mod like this. But then on the other hand, you have players that are quite flexible. And I think somebody like Hero, for example, is a great example of that. And I mean, Dark was considered to be the very best StarCraft Evolution player for a while before he went off to the military. And I mean, that's what he's doing right now, in case you haven't heard of his name in a little bit. He was an absolute monster in this mod, and no surprise, because obviously he's extremely good at, well, playing on the fly and changing up his strategies whenever necessary. Either way, this is going to be Terran mech, it looks like, from TaeJa, going up against StarCraft 2 Protoss. Now, we have a couple of Vultures trying their very best to see if they can bring home a kill. Additional Sentry, though, and an additional Stalker. They do show up. Very curious here from TaeJa to be playing this. That is the Spider Mine research, and I'm assuming on the back of it, we'll probably see the Vulture boost as well, the speed boost, that is. Now, I'm inclined to say that playing Robo, Blink Stalker into Robo Facility is going to be really a great choice here for Classic. Because obviously in StarCraft Brood War, you really don't have an Immortal equivalent. Immortals are going to hit very hard, so we do get a recall. Oh, gets a Stalker kill, not bad. But there's no Immortals that you have to worry about as a StarCraft 1 mech player. In this particular game mode, of course, that doesn't quite work out that way. Either way, the Vultures are going around, and look at these guys. With their arms wide. I don't know why they have their elbows out to the side, but I guess they're cooler to me, so what do I know? Anyways, it's a full wall off here for Classic, leaving just a little bit of space on the right side to be able to leave. Nice target firing right there by TaeJa, trying to get a kill on that sentry, but as long as there's a shield battery close by, it should be fine. Okay, nice Widow Mine though, or Spider Mine rather. Set out right outside of the main bases here of Classic. Classic is gonna have a really difficult time just leaving his own expansion. Dude, TaeJa is a beast in this mode. You love to see it, right? Like just a blast from the past. Clearly still got it. His APM is still plenty high. You don't hear his name for a while and he comes back and suddenly he's dominating a brand new mod. Well, I mean, I guess at this point it's been around for a little while already, but it's really neat to get TaeJa to show us how you're supposed to be doing this sort of stuff. Okay. Armory as well now, coming up. I don't know if you want to be going into science vessels at all in a matchup like this. Probably not, but as soon as I see these sort of transitions now coming in because of that previous series, I start getting flashbacks to the irradiation ability against Zerg. Rogue got absolutely torn apart by Irradiate. Ooh, nice blink right there by Classic. I'm not sure exactly if you get the same uses, though, out of a science facility, or, sorry, a science vessel in this particular instance, but we are going to go for the Academy for now. Hold up. Academy, music, sound effect, StarCraft 1. Here we go, here we go. I probably need to add that sound effect to my soundboard or something so I can just pull it out at any point, because it is an absolute classic StarCraft 1 sound effect. Actually, I think it's been around a lot longer than just StarCraft. I think it's a reference to something else. Either way, with detection nearby and aggressive blinks forward, even though TaeJa has been having a good time so far in these games, okay, the Stalkers need to be respected, but look at the sheer number of Vultures. Damn, Jimmy. Are those Vulture bikes? Oy, what a fight. Is there enough, though, for Classic to be able to break through this? I don't think you're going to be able to do an aggressive blink straight into those spider mines. And you know what? There's a whole lot of them set up around the perimeter, too. Careful, Classic. As long as the observer sees it, it's fine. What's inside of the prism? It's an Immortal. Now, the Immortal is not, contrary to its name, actually immortal. Vulture attack speed is actually super quick. Templar Archives right now on the back of this. I think I keep making Immortals, man. Am I crazy? I'm probably wrong. Am I loco? I feel like Immortals are the way to go. Oh, he's trying to sacrifice Stalkers right now to blink in. Did target fire down one of the siege tanks. Okay, it ends up falling. Lots of SCVs also pulled just to stay alive. In the meantime, we have a little Vulture counterattack. These dudes don't mess around, man. They're actually so freaking fast. Just their straight-up damage output is to be respected. Couple of spider mines. Oh, messy, but blink just changes it all, man. No blink, of course. It's StarCraft Brood War. I guess that's the Goliath upgrade, right? Should be. Sonic Storm queued up for just a moment for Classic. Does decide to get it going again. It's an expensive upgrade. Takes a while to get going. But he has a third base now. I wouldn't mind seeing the gases taken there in just a moment. And he's flying around with the prism. That's, I guess, why those Goliaths are coming up. Just to give some form of anti-air. Because technically this prism can be microed, well, for an extremely long time. Third command center coming up as well. TaeJa trying his very best here to, yeah, just stay alive. He's been bullied for a little bit already, but his army needs to be respected. Dude, this song as well. This is an official StarCraft 2 tune, I think. Very cool. All right, anyways, the Vultures move in. Yeah, they should really add these on the Blizzard side of things, just to every multiplayer game. More variety is more better. Anyways, big Blink Stalker recall is going to be needed because even though they killed 17 SCVs on the other side of the map, these Vulture bikes are incredibly dangerous. Immortal drops right in the middle of the siege tanks but ends up going down. Is there enough for Classic to be able to actually break out of this? He's been struggling against tanks. In the previous game, it was StarCraft 2 tanks. In this game, it is the good old Brood War tanks, but they're hitting, man. And they deal so much freaking damage. He doesn't have a whole lot of units anymore. He's thinking about going in for the counterattack. Keep in mind, though, that Terran did lose a lot of workers as well at home. So 26 SCVs is all that remains. The natural expansion has got barely any mining. The main base is not going to be, well, having that much money remaining either. Maybe another 5 minutes or so. So TaeJa is, for all intents and purposes, all in. He does have a third command center, but he decides to keep it in the main base, really just focusing all of his efforts on this fight right over here. Keep in mind that these Vultures don't have an infinite amount of spider mines. Oh, they can swoop into a mineral line, though, and kill it. Yeah. Observer shows up. Classic is going to slowly be able to work away at some of those mines, but he's being cautious. Siege tanks leapfrogging forward. Storm does go down, but doesn't quite hit the ones on the left. Vultures now have 27 worker kills as well. Make it 29. More and more of the tanks actually now joining into the mineral line too. I don't think Classic has enough. He blinks in, but his army gets obliterated. And TaeJa gets another point on the board. And just like that, we find ourselves on Vermeer. I'm gonna pronounce that in the most Dutch way possible, okay? Vermeer. In Dutch, we tend to roll every R. Vermeer. Johannes. Johannes Vermeer? Okay. Anyways, he's a famous Dutch Renaissance artist. I think it's a Renaissance. I should probably look this up. Anyways, this map is absolutely massive, and I don't really know exactly if the players are aware of where the opponents spawned. I'm fairly certain that when the game loads up, they will have like a temporary ping on the minimap on every single one of the maps, but especially useful, of course, on 4- or 3-player maps. I think they get a little ping on the minimap to indicate where the opponent spawned. Because of the starter worker count, it becomes very tricky otherwise to just stay alive, especially as Protoss. So TaeJa decides to go for a command center first. Yeah. There's usually a direct correlation between the amount of spawn locations on a map and the amount of starter workers that you can have. The main problem is that, like, in the StarCraft 2's case, right? Like, they added, at some point, from 6 to 12 starting workers. And it basically just means that, like, the first couple minutes of the game are shaved off. Now, it also, in a way, sort of reduces strategic variety a little bit. Because players aren't really capable of scouting super early. They can't really... You know, if you don't know, for example, where your opponent spawned, I mean, you might just accidentally lose because of full RNG, just by sheer dumb luck. So, 4-player maps in StarCraft 2 are pretty uncommon these days. But a good solution is just simply to have a little ping. Now, judging by the fact that Classic is scouting the wrong direction, I'm guessing that maybe there is no ping in this particular instance. No. No, he's looking the wrong way. Lucky here for TaeJa, though. He decided to go for... yeah, the clockwise location here. It's now going to give Classic as well, I guess, judging by the timing off of the opponent's scouting worker. Classic is going to be able to figure out that his opponent is likely in the bottom right. It does add some extra strategic depth. I quite like the idea, actually. I wouldn't mind having StarCraft 2 maybe with, like, 9 starter workers. And then, you know, add 4-player maps back into the map pool. Either way, it's going to be a Stargate build right here for Classic, who's once more playing SC2. I believe it to be, by the way, loser's pick. So, when you end up losing the game, you are allowed to choose what you're going to be playing in the next one. Are you going to be playing SC2, or are you going to be playing SC1? In this particular instance, TaeJa once more going into good old Brood War, but those units don't mess around. Now, one theme I have noticed so far... from all of the Brood War units is that the spellcasters are absurdly powerful. The spellcasters in general are just absolute beasts. And thus far, we haven't really, unless you consider, I guess, the Vulture to be a spellcaster, which maybe in the most technical sense of the term it might be. But we haven't really seen a whole lot of spellcasters just yet. I guess the Reaver is somewhat of a spellcaster. I can imagine at the very least the game considers it to be spell damage. Either way, we are going to be going into the Widow Mines or the Spider Mines once again. And Classic is going to do the same thing as he did earlier. This time around, though, he's doing it with Stalkers rather than with Dragoons. There is already an Oracle out. We're going to be sending it straight across the map. And is this really something that Terran is prepared for? I mean, at this point, there's no anti-air. You want a piece of me, boy? I think you target the ones. Oh, I guess mass repair is a way to get the job done, but I mean, this is still going to hurt horribly. Alright, bring it on! So the idea is to mass repair and then counterattack with the Vultures. In the meantime, though, there is a full wall in here from Classic. So this is just going to hurt. Yeah, he's got no anti-air. Well, this is awkward. Guess what Oracles are also really good at? Defending. I think this game is over. I do not see a way out of this. Energy recharge is going to allow that Oracle to literally not run out of energy. Yep, there we go. Energy recharge gets used, and not even the gateway goes down. This Oracle is still at 44 energy, so it's having a grand old time. Nice attempt here by TaeJa, but it turns out the strategy did involve crossing your fingers and hoping the opponent wasn't going to show up with flying units. Which is a very popular strategy on the StarCraft 2, especially on like the lower end of the ladder. 24 SCVs have gone down. And Classic is cruising. Now, he will need detection, but guess what? Oracles can do that as well. He did still decide to go for an Observer. It's a little bit awkward to see a Observer and an Oracle working together. Shield Battery, though, is going to be good enough. He decides to gun down one of his own gateways. I believe it gets to finish up that one Stalker, but then the gateway will be forced to get out of the game. Colossus on the back of this as well. Yeah, this game has all of the signs of Classic winning. Now, what can TaeJa still do, right? I think his main goal is just to stay alive. At this point, he's taken so much damage that staying alive is going to be the most difficult part. Okay, we do get a couple of Spider Mines up on the high ground. I like this attempt, though. It's going to hurt a little bit. Stalkers are going to get warped in. They show up so fast. Bunch of SCVs in the meantime still dying too on the other side of the map. And despite dealing a good bit of damage to the probes, it doesn't matter. TaeJa decides to rip off the band-aid. Next up, we find ourselves on Sylphid. Now this is a 3-player map, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit awkward, a little bit strange. Looks like TaeJa has decided to play good old StarCraft 2 again, whereas Classic has been forced into the Brood War units. Now, this is another one of those odd maps. Even though this is a Protoss versus Terran, we get a couple of those Zerg eggs, a couple of those Zerg cocoons hanging out front. They're mostly just here to narrow the entrance a little bit. Obviously, they're killable later on into the game. Natural expansion right over here, and generally you want to be expanding away from the opponent. It's a pretty large map, though. Mostly flat. Of course, none of the Brood War maps have any Xel'Naga watchtowers or anything along those lines, although apparently they do have a bunch of these destructible rocks. I'm not exactly sure if those are like an official thing from Brood War, or if like the... I guess like the StarCraft Evolution League organizers have taken the liberty to add those to the maps. It's not a bad idea. Nexus right now coming up. And we'll probably see a cybernetic score here for Classic in just a moment. Yep. Singularity Spike will likely be one of his first courses of action again. Dude, if you look at it from the side, it's almost invisible. Look at this. Now you can see the gateway. Bam! It disappears. Can barely see it, man. Command center on the low ground right now as well, though, for TaeJa. Actually, I say low ground. On this map, like, low ground in StarCraft 2 is almost a synonym to natural expansion. But there's quite a few Brood War maps I've noticed so far where I find myself autopiloting into calling it the low ground, but it's not the low ground. This is on the same, I guess we can call it plane, as the main base. And then look, the choke point over here is also not really going down a ramp or anything like that. It's very normal in StarCraft 2. I mean, it's 100% normal to have a ramp leading down from the main base to the natural, and then even a ramp leading down from the natural into the rest of the map. But this is all flat. And honestly, just the fact that it's flat already does make it very interesting. Now, in StarCraft 2, you don't have as much of a benefit, I suppose, when it comes to holding the high ground. The biggest difference as far as the high grounds go is that in StarCraft Brood War, when you are on the low ground trying to hit a unit that is at a higher level than you will have a percentage chance to miss. So your shots or your attacks or your damage can just quite literally miss. And it's a pretty wild concept. I mean, they've effectively done away with all of that level of randomness in StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 is a lot more consistent, I guess, with the damage output. Because in Brood War, you could theoretically miss like 100 times in a row. I mean, the odds of that happening are exceptionally low, but it does add a little bit of variety. It's the same as well, for example, in Warcraft 3, where unit damage output is a range. So units will deal a certain range of damage with every single auto attack. And yeah, sometimes your troops will simply deal more damage than other times. Now, I don't know if that's a bad or a good thing. I think for StarCraft 2, it makes a lot of sense that that is not a thing. But it is certainly a game decision, right? It's something you have to decide as a game developer. Do we want to have a range of damage, or do we want to, like, make it... Do we want to add RNG? I used to be very RNG, aka, like, very randomness averse in RTS games. But I've come to really appreciate it, I think, in Warcraft 3. Like, Warcraft 3 is just the right level of derpiness for me. Because it does create very interesting things. Like, for example, the biggest one in Warcraft 3, at least the easiest one, I guess, to talk about is item drops. So you kill the random creeps out on the map, and sometimes you get, like, 3 phenomenal items back to back to back, and otherwise, other times you just get absolutely nothing. In my case, for example, I get a lot of those defense rings that are absolute garbage. I tend to get a lot of those, but then, you know, of course, my opponent gets, like, claws of attack and haste and all the rest of it. Anyways, it's interesting to me because it changes the way that the game is played. Like, in StarCraft, at least in StarCraft 2, you usually have a strategy in mind when the game goes on, and that's the one you're going to execute. But in Warcraft 3, sometimes you have to make adjustments just based off of the items that you get. Like, sometimes you get lucky, and you can be a lot more aggressive than you otherwise would have been able to. And it really, like, if the goal is to create, like, the quote-unquote best strategic player out there, if you want to have that player win, being able to adapt on the fly, I think, is a very interesting additional concept, whereas StarCraft 2, I guess, across the board is a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more clinical, a little bit more predictable. There's something to be said for both. Either way, Hyperflight rotors again for TaeJa. Double starport Mass Banshee. Now, Mass Banshee, usually quite atrocious in StarCraft 2. It's just too expensive and the units are too flimsy. But he obviously made great use of the Banshee as well in the first game of the series. It's very cool. Now, okay, we're gonna go for a Stargate here for Classic, so he's mixing it up a bit. No Reaver drops this time around. Additional factories coming up as well, though, so... TaeJa's builds really are the best that I've seen so far. I feel like most of the strategies that I've seen across the board from Terrans, but then also from Protoss and Zergs, they're all like StarCraft 2 adjusted builds. So we would, for example, see like triple barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport. But TaeJa is consistently doing this stuff where, for example, right now, he's going double factory, double starport. That is not a StarCraft 2 build whatsoever, not what you would do at all, but it's clearly working for him in the mod. Still clearly working for him, at least in StarCraft Evolution. Either way, we have a Corsair out right now. First time I'm seeing Corsairs in a while. Bzz, 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 bzz. They can, of course, move and shoot like that. And, well, good luck trying to keep this alive. I really like this here, actually, from Classic. Ah, he got the Graviton Boosters upgrade as well. Now Hyperflight Rotors is done. He can't really catch up anymore, but he got the Graviton Boosters upgrade, which is the Observer Speed. Anticipating display again, but then TaeJa, I guess, anticipated the anticipation. And he got speed for his Banshees to kick in as well, right at the perfect moment. Not losing any of them. More factories coming up, but already a fleet beacon. Together with another Stargate, Kydarian Amulet, so that's the energy upgrade for the High Templar. A 4th Nexus. I mean, Classic at the very least didn't take a stupid amount of damage this time around, and he's going to be able to now build up his economy, right? He's going to be able to build up his tech, build up his economy, and he's going to go for the banana ship. Very nice. Oh. Quite like these guys, though. The Dragoons show up again in the middle of the map. Corsair does have some really powerful spells as well, but no Disruption Web available in this particular instance. Now the Banshees, though, have found a good point of engagement, right? I think this is good. Now, one of the issues we saw, and I talked about this a little bit as well in the first game, right? That Classic got stuck on a ground-based army against full Terran mech. And it was okay initially until the siege tank numbers grew. He just sort of struggled, and I thought maybe going into Skytles would have indeed been the right call. Apparently Classic agrees with me as well. That's exactly what he's trying to do right now. Obviously, though, the bananas, well, carriers themselves are kind of slow. But they will be available here very soon, and at least in a straight-up fight against siege tanks, they will be much nicer to have than pure Dragoon, pure Zealot. We have a Raven added into the mix as well. Okay, not a bad idea. Dude, the little hit squads of Banshees flying every which way, though, is incredibly fun. Important upgrade over here for those carriers. The Graviton Catapult is going to allow those little interceptor ships to deploy a little bit faster. And it looks like the carriers here have been set up to be bodyguards. Yeah. They're taking up bodyguard duty. Now, because we are playing Terran mech, TaeJa is going to go and switch up into Thors right now. There's the interceptors flying about. Somehow, some way. None of the Banshees have really died yet. Only a single one thus far. Usually, Thors are not the go-to. Usually, Vikings are a lot more common. But, I mean, Thors in their high-impact mode, in their single-target damage mode, can certainly shoot down some of those capital ships. There we go. You see them switching their attack mode. He's going to get rid as well now of those Zerg cocoons just to widen the space a little bit. But he's going to be able to gun down those carriers from a bit of a distance. Together with Vikings, I'm wondering here how this army is going to play out. Obviously, though, it means that there's not going to be nearly as many tanks as there were in the first game. So now we have only 5 of those siege tanks in total. The sheer dynamics, right? I mean, how often do we see Thors in Terran versus Protoss? Spoiler alert, never. We never see it in StarCraft 2. At least not at the highest level. I think I saw one game where the players went for like a Thor drop in 2025, but that's about the only time I've seen it, and that was like an all-in-y type of cheese. Now we're seeing it in a legit macro game. Hard to say exactly who this is going to favor. Classic is thinking the same thing again. He's like, oh, I guess it's maybe good, but also, what if I just make more flying units? It is one of those weird dynamics. I really would love to see the +2 flyer upgrade coming up as well. I think getting up to +3 here ASAP will be critical, but here we go. Siege tanks on siege. Storms could hurt real bad. Ooh, he decided not to go for it. Maybe he didn't quite have energy. Wait, has he not researched it? He hasn't researched Storm. He starts it up right now. He recognized it as well during this battle. Massive oversight right there from Classic. He got the Kydarian Amulet, but not the Storm research itself. And that means that suddenly this Terran army can actually continue fighting. Look at the Thors having a grand old time. They can blast down those carriers, although he really needs to be retargeting. Still, though, despite the lack of Storm, this Protoss army is still packing a punch. It's now only the Thors that still remain, and I think there's just barely enough here for the Protoss player to actually get the job done. Yeah, a bit of messy control right there from Classic for sure. Also, not the best target firing from TaeJa. With Storm, I think that fight would have been a landslide win for Classic. In StarCraft 2, you never have to worry about multiple upgrades in the Templar archives. But in this particular instance, well, you need to make sure you go back in and check whether or not you started up the secondary research too. Okay, now, the armor upgrades are going to be big here for TaeJa. Especially against carriers. So obviously the carriers all carry 8 interceptor ships. Every single one of them is going to deal damage, and the more armor triggers you can get, the more armor upgrades you can get, the better it's going to be for Terran across the board. In the meantime, Classic doing a very StarCraft 2-esque strategy. He is just double expanding and taking bases all over the map. Likewise, though, right now, TaeJa, he starts up a whole lot of command centers of his own. One Zealot has been tasked with killing the CC. Alright, he's got some friends now. Actually, will force the cancel. Planetary fortresses are going to be pretty nice. Fight again in the middle of the map. This time around, Storm does indeed show itself. A couple of the units are clumped, and it means that the Vikings take some additional damage. Smart servos coming up. That's going to allow the Thors in particular in this instance to quickly transform between multi-damage and single-target damage modes. I think in this type of instance, though, you always want to have the single-target damage, but I guess if you're nearly maxed, you may as well. There's finally the +2 starting up for Classic. I think this should have started up a while ago. Honestly, I think going double Cybercore. Yeah, he's getting a second one right now. It makes a lot of sense. If you're going to be mostly making your, well, army fly, getting more upgrades is certainly better. Here comes the Terran, though. Nice way of starting the engagement as he killed one of the carriers at the very, well, beginning of it. 2 carriers have gone down, but the Storms are quite juicy. And you know what? Those Vikings just disappeared. It's pretty much only the Thors remaining right now for the Terran player, but those are not messing around. In the meantime, though, the Zealots decided to split themselves off from the main party as they are busy slicing up a mineral line, and I think that makes all of this perfectly manageable for Classic, who's sitting at a grand total of 88 workers. Well, we should look at that. We're even gonna add in an Arbiter. I didn't notice him adding in... Yeah, there it is. The Arbiter Tribunal. Or Tribunal. I don't know. Anyways, he's adding that one into the mix as well. In case you're unfamiliar, these are effectively little mini motherships. But they have the stasis ability, right? And the stasis usually is extremely sketchy. I don't know exactly how it functions in this particular mod, but it has the potential to disable units temporarily, and even with just a few Thors down the drain, could make all the difference. Few move commanded Dragoons make this awkward, but the Storms have been good. 12 additional Dragoons added into the mix. We have so many gateways in total, 15 of them. And even though TaeJa is trying to make a move over here to like the 3rd base and a natural expansion, he is next door neighbors with the Protoss a little bit further up north. Now he's starting to figure that out, though. A couple Cyclones will find an open mineral line. He's setting up siege tanks here in the middle of the map as well. Difficult position for Classic to break, unless he's got a whole lot of flying units. And, I mean, I guess with the Arbiter nearby, that might not be a terrible idea. Still, though, 6 of the probes have gone down. A few of the reinforcing Dragoons have shown up. And I think TaeJa, yeah, he now scanned the top. He now knows about those outer expansions here off the Protoss, but he got his eyes set on the main base. He wants to go after the big, juicy target. Well, let's see if he's got enough. The Raven is going to be the main detector here. He's going to be able to target a lot of this down, though, and there's indeed that Arbiter falling immediately. The Storms are so freaking good. StarCraft 1 Storms just hit so hard. Question is there enough Protoss? We can have all the fancy abilities, but sometimes StarCraft 2 is just a numbers game. The Thors, though, are sort of derping into one another. A couple of the High Templar get blasted apart by the siege tanks. I think we can send those Thors just a little bit further up north to be within range of the tanks as well, to have them helping out. Problem here for TaeJa, though, he's under a lot of threat as well. Counterattacks happening left, right, and center. Little squads of units have been set up all over the map. Kyderian Core coming up even here for Classic. He's going to go back into the good old carrier production. He will indeed be researching more and more for those Arbiters, so we'll probably see a few more of them coming up in a moment. the recall, we've got the stasis, we've got a little bit of everything happening now. Zealots, though, still, right? Even though they're the absolute lowest level of Protoss unit you can make, they still hit extremely hard. +3 ground here for those units. Not bad whatsoever. And despite a bunch of clumsy engagements, honestly for the both of them, as we once more have the units committing, Classic is just mining more. And the fact that he's mining more is going to allow him to take these relatively inefficient trades nicely. We can have a look at the units lost. Yeah, it's looking quite good for him in that department, so he's been trading slightly more efficiently than the opponent, and he's got more mining. So even though some of the fights are not quite as clean as they could have been, I think it's good enough. You need to be careful though, no way around here. Once you go up the high ground, you might find yourself getting cornered. So I think it's okay for Classic to just chill. Max out again, get 200 supply, which he is, well, arriving at already. Put everything in one big ball and give it another shot. So the Dragoons are getting torn apart by siege tanks, but the Dragoons are incredibly effective against Thors. And because of the Skytools units, the Thors are sort of forced out. I guess Vikings are still a viable choice, though. That's kind of the thing, right? I feel like Vikings are still a viable solution. It's just that they clumped up a lot, and the Storm took really quick care of it. Either way, here's another Storm. And again, no control on those Vikings. Classic will be able to even up this best of 9 with a 2-2 score. Game number 5. Purity and Industry. Now, I've decided to fast forward through the first couple of minutes of the game, just because I think everybody's starting to get the hang of how this mod works. It's Classic playing StarCraft 2, TaeJa playing StarCraft Brood War again. I've seen him do some really nice timing attacks, especially against Zerg. I wonder if that's what we're going to be getting over here. Looks like for the time being, he's mostly concerned of the early game harassment, right? And that's one of the real strengths of Protoss in the current meta in StarCraft 2. Protoss can scout everything. Hallucinations, bada bing, bada boom. Give this guy some juice. Hey, Nexus. Hey, Nexus. Nexus, give him some juice. Okay, we're not gonna... Really? He doesn't even... He gets to wait? Wow, we chronoed. Poor Sentry. This is honestly very greedy here from Classic. So he's not even energy recharging it. He's just immediately going Sentry first into a delayed hallucinated Phoenix Scout. Skirting it just around the edge right here of those inhibitor zones. In my mind, this is GG against half a dozen different Terran openers. But lucky for him, he's managed to get away with murder. Academy coming up. Academy coming up. Oh, man, I need this sound effect. Where is it? Dang it. Academy coming up. Click it. Excellent. And we already have a starport as well. Alternatively, I could do my impression of that sound effect. No. That is more like my dinosaur mating call. Which honestly might be... Anyway, science facility going on the other side of the map. A proxy science facility. Now that is curious. What is the plan here, TaeJa? He's adding on, okay, the covert ops as well. So we are doing some sneaky strategies here. I have not seen this before in the mod. It's very ironic, especially against Protoss in 2025. Because Protoss in 2025 in SC2 generally just sees the whole map. But there we go. We've got ourselves the ghosts coming up. I haven't seen ghosts yet in this mod at all, have I? I believe that's lockdown. Although I can't really confirm until the upgrade shows up on the right side of the map, just like Blink is right now. Classic is checking the main base, but I think TaeJa is sort of relying on the inexperience of Classic a little bit. In a normal game of StarCraft 2, and I guess also a normal game of StarCraft 1, players will be able to pick up on the fact that something is missing, right? Like, the players will have a very good idea of what should be inside of the opponent's bases at that point in time. And just based off of that information, Classic would be able to deduce that something is missing in the main bases of the Terran. But in this mod, he will likely not be able to get... It is lockdown, by the way. He's not going to be able to get all of the information, which is very, very interesting indeed. Look at those ghosts. Why are they wearing red trousers? I don't know. Now, real quick, Lockdown is a spell that can be cast by the ghost that will short-circuit the target's circuitry, rendering it immobile for 43.8 seconds. Okay. That's an exceptionally long time. And, ooh, okay. It has now been spotted. Lockdown can only be cast on mechanical units. So, we'll have to see exactly what he is planning on locking down. But this is... certainly a different build than what I've seen so far. Maybe TaeJa is actually just doing this fully defensively. Look at this. He's repositioning his barracks right now. Repositioning also his engineering bay. Which still looks very funny. I still think it looks very funny when it's flying up in the air like that. Whee! And he's now making a transition towards Terran mech. So I guess the idea is to just use those ghosts defensively? I mean, he could have just been aggressive with them already if that was the plan. These red trousers would have been extremely dangerous to deal with. I'm guessing the most logical thing to be locking down is anything coming out of the robo facility. I'm assuming the prism, for example, is allowed as well. A lot of those units have also, and a lot of those spells have also gotten small adjustments. Because obviously if you were to copy like the straight one-to-one version of it from Brood War to StarCraft 2, it could be overpowered or too weak or whatever. So there have been a lot of adjustments added. I'm not exactly sure what we can expect from it. Control tower coming up right now for TaeJa. So we do have already the Vulture speed upgrade kicked in. They've got the spider mines, which are going to be burrowing in some of the future possible expansions. And 44 seconds sounds like a ridiculously long time. Apparently, it's the same amount of time as stasis. Like, 44 seconds in StarCraft 2 terms is insanity. We're going to continue using that proxy science facility for whatever we can get. Scans going down, though, and TaeJa sees exactly what the opponent has got going, as Classic is once more starting to make a transition towards the good old Sky Toss. +1 air weapons coming up, despite the fact that he doesn't have any real flying units yet, other than the Prism. New command center coming up. Yeah, so TaeJa really just using this as an opportunity to turtle. I am not sure if this is the right call, but it certainly is an interesting play. My main concern, and maybe this is again my StarCraft 2 senses, but my main concern is the Protoss late game. Like, in StarCraft 2, I think it's probably the worst strategic choice that you can make, as a Terran, as a Zerg, as a Protoss, is to let Protoss sit there, mass expand all over the map, and skip effectively all early and all mid-game tech. And that is what TaeJa has done this game. He's basically saying, yo, you get to do whatever you like, and I'll go ahead and do whatever I like, and then at some point we will clash. StarCraft 2 Protoss? Super risky. Super risky to do that against. These armies are going to clash at some point, though. Siege tank numbers are already going north of 15, which is just nuts. Running by the Stalkers? Oh god, okay, those storms are pretty nice. Running by the Stalkers and then dropping a bunch of spider mines all around them. I don't know if the spider mines will be triggered by High Templar dropped on top of them. I'm guessing it won't, because they're technically hovering units. I do really like these Vultures, man. The Vultures are so spicy. They are a little bit more complex, though, than like Hellions or Widow Mines in SC2, right? They are a little bit different. Anyways, TaeJa is going to use this now as an opportunity to take the 4th base. Are we actually going to move out with this? He did, by the way, make a bunch of science vessels. So science vessels will be nice to have. Can we get a little storm? Not bad. Oh, and there's indeed the lockdown, preventing the prism from escaping. Big hits over here across the board, though, but now the carriers are showing up. This is really only a part of the Protoss army. We have triple robo as well, by the way, so mass Immortal production has kicked in. TaeJa believes that his turtle is successful, but I am not so certain that it is the case. All Classic needs is a little bit of time. And he can buy so much of it just by like threatening to move in, forcing a few of the siege tanks at the least to siege up. And yeah, TaeJa wants to drive over here and then siege up, but that is not something he can really achieve. He decides to go back home, try to max out and get some Goliaths added into the mix as well, as we now have had a mass recall into the main base of the Terran player 2. Mothership drops down the time warp on the ramp, making it practically impossible for the Terran mech player to get into the main base again. Bunch of damage being done. Nothing all too crazy just yet, though. Okay, there's the lockdown again on the Immortals. I mean, lockdown is insane. Right now, it looks like the mothership itself actually ended up getting blown up. Was that really just the Goliaths primarily dealing the damage to it? Either way, look at this. The carriers are also locked down. Again, these spells are just ludicrous. Lockdown is another one of those abilities that evidently is just so freaking powerful. TaeJa, I mean, he pushes that army out of the main. The problem is that Classic has got so much income. He's got 83 workers worth and he is cruising. He's just having a good time. Mama ship coming up right here for Classic. The second one, that is. The stepmother ship on the production tab right now, too. He's certainly going to need more of those goes, though. Because the more of those units you can lock down, the better it will be. Little zealot run by is attempted. Yeah, I think, so the army that TaeJa is making is really cool. And I think it's certainly not a bad choice. The problem is that he did so by entirely ignoring everything that Classic was doing on the other side of the map. And Protoss late game is just absolutely monstrous. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. But I just don't really see this mass siege tank army working out that nicely. The Goliaths, though, will be nice, right? The Goliaths can hit very hard. Just gonna find out, by the way, indeed, where the science facility is located. Actually, it was previously over there, wasn't it? We already have a new one. Scanning the main base reveals, though, that the mothership is once more leaving her main. And I think the idea is to hit the Terran on this site and then recall into the main once more. Now, there is a ring of missile turrets set up. Is this a good idea? Oh god, oh god, oh god, he's gonna recall into the spider bites! The recall will complete, but the question is, at what cost? I just saw the mothership disappear in a matter of seconds. Still though, the Terran army is nowhere even remotely close, and TaeJa, he cannot stop the swarm. GG gets called, and that means that Classic wins 3 games back to back to back. Next up, we find ourselves on Blue Storm. TaeJa, playing StarCraft 2, decides to go for a good old engineering bay block. Next is coming up right here for Classic. Forced to build it a little bit further out of his base than he would have liked to. Only 6 mineral fields on this one, actually. Look at that. Very cursed. Normally, bases in StarCraft 2 have 8 mineral fields on them, so 2, 4, is it 7? Wait, what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Ah! Blue Storm, you're weird. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. Wait, there's 9 mineral fields in the main base, 7 in the natural, and 6 at the third. I haven't really been paying special attention to mineral lines on the other maps. that are ported over from StarCraft 1 thus far, but... Why did he finish the NG bay? You're supposed to let this one barely not finish, so you can cancel it and still get the majority of your money back. Now TaeJa has basically donated some minerals to the opponent, although he's building up a bunker. Sure. Send in Jimmy. And I would walk 100 miles and I would walk 100. We're gonna go for good old Marauder Production 2. Nexus at this point is done, so Classic will see what he's playing against. But, I mean, he's already got a shield battery. He's going into Dragoons. Singularity Spike is gonna be done within the minute. I think he's totally fine. Yeah, I think he does the right thing here, just doubling down on defending this. Nice little dance between the auto attacks, although he does miss one shot. Yeah, this isn't gonna work, TaeJa. Now keep in mind... Okay, maybe I'm a little early to call it, but... Keep in mind that this is a best of 9, so first player to win 5 maps is the victor of the tournament. But so far, I do not like the start here for TaeJa. Nope. Concussive shells researched. All of these units, though, are going to die. You need to respect the Dragoon. They may not breathe fire, but, I mean, they still deal a ridiculous amount of damage. And it just seems so tanky. Hey, look, one of them is going to die. Good job, Jimmy. All of you died. But you did kill one Dragoon. So that's nice. And now suddenly it's time for Classic to be the aggressor. Bunker coming up here as well. It's effectively a one-base opener here from TaeJa. No expansion or anything along those lines. It is a little bit awkward to attack on this map because you have a ramp leading up from the natural expansion up towards the high ground. Yeah, Protoss players in StarCraft 1 have been gooning for many years. Dragooning, to be exact, but... I think he's gonna have to walk back home and maybe just kill this thing over here and take the third. Now, there is a little ramp over here too, but I think this only fits small units. I think you guys are a little too thick. Yeah, you don't fit, man. Classic tried to jam the triangular shape into the circular hole over here. He's like, "Arr! Arr!" Sorry, lads. Sorry, you guys are too thick. Yeah, it sucks. You don't want to hear it. You've been making loads of gains. Little Banshee shows up, and these Banshees will have their work cut out for them, because TaeJa needs them to deal damage. He's double expanding at the same time, which I don't really mind. But he needs to be careful. Because he needs to deal some sort of damage, otherwise Classic is just gonna outproduce him real quick. A Reaver drops again on the back of this. Okay. Not good. Seconds before Banshee cloaking finished up. Second Banshee going around the right side of the map. At this point, though, TaeJa is effectively crossing his fingers, crossing his toes, blessing everything he can just to hope that the mineral line will be unprotected, which is never a great defensive strategy. Although it is one that I have employed in many StarCraft games over the years. Ooh, we have double drops. So there's a Dragoon in here as well as a Reaver. Observer is going to show up as well. Classic is not really going to take any chances. Okay, let's see. How much damage can a shuttle drop with a Reaver inside of it do against StarCraft 2 Terran? Ooh. Dude, I love how slow those attacks are. They're genuinely exciting. Like, the Reaver was already happily back inside of its private jet. Does he not have a gravitic drive? Oh, no, he doesn't. He's going to be able to get away, but only just barely. No, he does have a gravitic drive. Sorry, my bad. This is gravitic drive right over here. The image is different. straight Fleet Beacon and Stargate. Okay. Classic is having a good time now. I actually really like how Classic is adjusting to these games. I feel like he's playing significantly better than he did in the first matches, which is kind of ironic, considering this is the grand finals of the tournament. Usually that would be one of the worst times to be learning how to play the game, but maybe Classic just needed to get into the groove a little bit. Sometimes all you need is a cup of coffee, right? As a competitive player, caffeine can carry you a very long way, I have learned. TaeJa's gonna see, though, that there's a random pylon over here, and he will find a Nexus. He's not gonna be happy about that. I guess he can be happy that he found it, but the problem is, it is a 4th base when he is still stuck on 2. Okay, man, those Scarabs are just tearing him apart. Carrier production in the meantime coming up, too. Not gonna happen, lad. We do have 2 of those. Yeah, we do have triple orbitals, so that's something, right? Like, he does have 2 that he can fly away soon, I guess. One still in the main base from earlier. Oh, man. I really do like the Reaver a lot. The Reaver is a very fun unit. Well, very fun unit to watch. Very fun unit to play. Very annoying unit to play against. But that's okay. Terran has plenty of those of their own. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Yeah, it's too much damage, man. Classic is tearing him apart with about 2 units here. I guess the Prism is also part of the story, but I mean... Send in another one! Oh. Yo, Classic, take care of your... there we go. Problem is, this isn't even really the main attack. This was just Classic sort of testing the waters and having a good time. The real attack is coming in about a minute or 2. Yeah, I think we would all agree that the Reaver is the cooler counterpart of the Disruptor. Like, there are some StarCraft 2 units that are cooler, I think, in general, right? Like, the Brute Lord is cooler than the Guardian. Oh. But I do like this unit quite a bit better than the Disruptor. Finally, we've got ourselves a Ghost Academy coming up. TaeJa wants to go Ghost 2 games back-to-back. This time around, though, he's doing so for, well, the StarCraft 2 units. EMP is still very powerful. Probably better even than Lockdown is. Boom! Oh, one of the Dragoons did, or sorry, one of the Reavers did die. But I think at this point, Classic just must have the numbers, right? There's not enough anti-air. Yeah, there's only 2 carriers. Yeah, they're not really well upgraded yet. Okay, the micro here is a bit spotty from Classic. Probably not entirely used yet to the timing in which the unit is not capable of firing, but he really doesn't want to give this Terran player too much wiggle room. There's only a handful of Marines out, and yep, all of those interceptors will make short work of them. Classic has now won 4 maps in a row. Ooh, now this is a map that I have never seen before. Look at it. It's called Troy. Very cool looking color scheme. We've never had a map this orange before in StarCraft 2, have we? I guess we are on some dusty planet, right? This looks like the surface of some, I don't know, a rusty, dusty planet. Very interesting. So what's this? Pairs of neutral assimilators around the map can be destroyed, affecting the width of the choke point between them. When both are alive, all ground units can pass through. When one is destroyed, only small ground units can pass through. And when both are destroyed, this choke is closed off, turning the area behind it into an island. What? Whoa! That's like a reverse... So wait, you could go across the map and quickly kill your opponent's gas geysers? And then they are stuck on an island? Very interesting. Now, this is of course match point here for Classic. I don't really know exactly if he can make use of any of that, but I really like the idea. Considering I've now casted quite a few of the StarCraft Evolution League matches, and none of them have featured this map, I wonder if the players consider this map to be quite garbage. I'm not exactly sure. But it is certainly an interesting mechanic. So there's some over here in the natural. Or sorry, in the main base. Then there's one over here as well. So that leads towards this expansion. So you can create your own islands. 6 mineral fields over here. How many do we have in the main, by the way? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. Wait, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, we have 10 mineral fields. 2, 4, 6, 7 over here. Yo, what are those Brood War map makers smoking, dude? All these maps are... Huh. It's actually cool, but it also makes me slightly uncomfortable. Every single one of the maps has a different amount of minerals for each of the bases. Not even the main and the natural are standardized. Honestly, I kind of want to see it in StarCraft 2. So they have, okay, they have 1,500 mineral, or 1,500 health rather in total, which is quite a lot. What's this in the middle, by the way? Like in the middle on the mini-map? There's a... I don't know what that symbol is supposed to be. It doesn't seem to correspond with this little map detail. Because I think this is purely visual, but there might be something in the middle of the map that is relevant too. Okay. So... we have a Robo support bay added into the mix right now for Classic. Who will be going, of course, into the Reaver drops again. Seems like somehow, some way, it's a little bit quicker this time around. We're once more opting to go for the quick ranged upgrade here for the Dragoons. No surprise there. Seems like an absolute no-brainer. Honestly, Protoss without warp gates is already very interesting. Oh, we're using the quick prism or the quick shuttle just to ferry a unit down to the low ground. So look at this base as well then, huh? This is a literal island. There's no way to get down here. I mean, other than with like a dropping unit, like a dropping unit like the shuttle here, but there's no other way to quickly bring a unit down towards the low ground. TaeJa is gonna fly the command center instead, so both players opting to get the island base going really rapidly. This map looks really nice. Maybe a little bit too orange. If I could scale down the orange a little bit, I would probably make it slightly less bright. But still, very neat. All right, here's the Reaver showing up with its one hand. Pick me up. So, one Dragoon, one shuttle, and one Reaver. It sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. Do we send it in? I mean, I think you need to send it into the main base. Ooh, look at the bubbling. Ugh. Quick little shield battery coming up here as well. Classic does want to go after the mineral line over here. So there is a little bit of a delay when you first drop down the Reaver out of a shuttle. Because if it has the perfect StarCraft 2 pathing, you would just not really be able to have any counterplay. And that counterplay so far has been pretty nice. Look at TaeJa. TaeJa improving here as well. You love to see it. I feel like previously it was losing big clumps of the Marines and the Marauders to the individual Scarabs. Now he's doing a better job in that department, only losing individuals, but it's still tough though. It's just putting in so much work. Oh. Dude, I really love the Reaver. Ay, ay, ay. It's so nice. Well, I think in the end it's also very dead. Yeah. Dragoon is also not gonna live for much longer. And now with the Viking here, indeed, you can use this to basically deny all of it. But I mean, a new Reaver has already been coming up. One has already been produced. Classic is gonna pick it up and try to see if he can get some more damage in. He's also gonna take, okay, the base over here at the 3 o'clock position. Likewise, Classic taking, or sorry, TaeJa taking the other, well, 9 o'clock base instead. Ooh! Oh, juicy hit. You just don't know what you're going to be losing, right? I mean, there is a small little visual indicator of the unit targeting it down, but... Actually, did I do the scoreboard incorrectly? Is it 4-2 or 4-3 right now? It turns out I am dumb. It is indeed 4-2. So many games. Just a one-man production team. Sometimes the one-man production team gets the scoreboard wrong. I know. Professional content creator. Well, here we go. Classic has done so much damage already. Oh, and even though the splitties were pretty good earlier on, I am not really too keen on how it's been going here for Classic more recently. Or for TaeJa. I mean, the Vikings show up and it's going to be nice to deal a bit of counterattack damage, but TaeJa has been losing so many units. I love this little Dragoon hit squad as well. Yeah, Classic just notably playing better the longer that the series goes on. Like right now, he is cruising. You can tell that he's feeling more confident as well, just with the way that he's positioning his army. Generally, when you're the aggressor, it just feels so much better. You know that your opponent is not going to be hiding any units at this stage in the game, right? I mean, you know exactly how much army there is for TaeJa, because you have just been such a bother. And even though the Reaver will end up going down here, 21 additional SCVs have died. That's a grand total of 38. 38 SCVs have died 8 minutes into the game. TaeJa not opting to go for any of that like mass Banshee style that we have been seeing him go for thus far. He hasn't opted to go for the mass siege tank approach. This is the Terran player trying to style a little bit and maybe mix it up a bunch, but it seems like Classic has made some really solid adjustments. What are you guys doing? Yo, what are you guys doing? What the? All right, I'll leave you to it. Okay, maybe don't look at the right side of the screen. Okay, geez, they're done. Either way, this drop over here is good. TaeJa actually getting some damage done. Problem is, Classic is no longer caring about that particular base. He has denied the opponent's third and the opponent's fourth, and he will gladly lose a base for it himself. I think he might even consider just going up the ramp. I mean, there's just no siege tanks, right? So why not give it a shot? You will have a percentage chance to miss, I suppose, but carrier production has already begun, and that is going to make life way easier. Maybe intercept one of the medevacs? That would be really nice as well. Classic hitting a little bit of a supply block because of the structures over here dying. He doesn't have Storm available, but you know what he does have? A Reavers. Oh, careful. Ooh, Classic move commanding a little bit, but he does get a decent blast. Long cooldown in between those shots, though. And TaeJa, I mean, he may have found a solution to the problem. At this point, only one of the Reavers still remains. There is certainly still a lot of improvement possible here for Classic, who may have gotten a little bit carried away. He's losing a lot all of a sudden. TaeJa, though, is sitting only at 41 workers, right? So for all intents and purposes, this is a 2-base all-in. Oh, he snatches up the probes. I quite like that. Saves the probes that were being targeted down right there by TaeJa. Only a 12-worker lead at this point in time. TaeJa is once more going to land the orbital command. Mules will be harvesting these resources as quickly as possible. Okay. Transitions here into the Cyclones. I think Cyclones are a really good option. But Cyclones are also a very momentum-based unit. Usually when the getting is good, right? You can just play more and more Cyclones and it's hard to lose. He decides to pull the boys instead. This is it. TaeJa decides to go for one final push. He's brought the boys out to the front. There's not a lot of splash damage, but there is still a Reaver in the back. Man, I would love to see the Reaver retargeting to some of the juicier clumps. Either way, that's another Reaver biting the dust. Probes themselves are now pulled away from the mineral line too, just to try and see if there's enough bodies to clean up this Terran army, and I think there are. Classic winning not off of micro here in this final engagement, but just off of the sheer amount of units that he's got. I would really love to see the Graviton Catapult research as well inside of the Fleet Beacon, because we are just missing a bunch of the value here that these carriers could be providing. Now Vikings are joining in the fray as well, though. Those Dragoons are just so freaking strong. Yeah, the Dragoons are gonna kill the Marines, and at that point they can start working on the Vikings too. Classic now only at 38 workers, adds on a few more probes, back up to 40. TaeJa not really remaking any of his SCVs. No Zealot leg enhancements yet, but they're still quite useful. Low HP Vikings is really all that remains, and I think these rallied Marines are gonna have to bite the dust as well. When it comes to this map, Troy, it seems like there's a lot of dust all over the floor, everywhere we go. Reinforcing units, though, are here now again. Stimpack can be used. Cyclone does lock on to whatever it can lock on to. Okay, well, there's not a lot of SCVs. And that's the real kicker here for TaeJa. He's just been like 20-ish workers behind over the course of the last 5 minutes. And even though I think he's been squeezing about as much juice out of every single one of those fights as he could have, Classic is just out-mining him. There's a couple of peaks and valleys. That's when the mules are mining and when they aren't. But across the board, it's pretty clear that Classic has just been mining way more. So he can take some of these traits, and we are like one Reaver shot away from this game and this series being over. Oh, whoa, 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 where are you going? Jeez, that one spiraled around the Protoss army for a bit before finally exploding in nowhere. Looks like there is a double medevac drop sneaking around the site. Little bit of all army hotkey movement there by TaeJa. He's been scouted though, and this is gonna allow Classic to reposition his units. This medevac drop is not gonna go anywhere. And TaeJa is not in a position to be losing that many units. Now the mineral line over at the third is no longer safe. Likewise though, we see some losses on the other side of the map, but again, it's an eye for an eye. And that will always benefit the player with more eyes. Classic has an awful lot of those. 50 workers versus 26. Mules are good, but they're gonna have a difficult time making up for that. Medevac somehow, some way, sneaking here through the map, but it is gonna be spotted now. Reaver production will continue again. Honestly, props to TaeJa. I thought he was dead a while ago, and I still don't think he's in a particularly great spot, but he is hanging in here, and he is getting some value. Now the Reaver grenades, though, are connecting, and even though the carriers will die, yeah, I think this army here for Protoss is big enough. Classic cleaning this up in one of the messiest ways possible, but I just don't see another result than him ultimately cleaning this up. Nice splits, though, by TaeJa. Man, TaeJa, you should have microed like this before the big detonations. Like, when we saw the Reavers go around the map the second time around, they just tore your army apart. Very early against the very first Reaver, he microed brilliantly, and then just now again, he's also been putting in the work. Across the board, it makes the fights pretty well done, but he just lost so much economy, right? And how in the world can you catch up? Well, he's been adding on some workers once more. Little hit squad here of Dragoons. Keep in mind, there's no recall or anything like that, so he needs to be careful about not getting these units cornered. He can maybe save some of them. Actually, the orbital command itself is taking a lot of damage. Shuttle just trying to fly around, and it will go down here. Oh, at least not without taking 3 more Marines down too. Looks like most of the SCVs at this point have disappeared. Orbital command itself is burning. The Dragoons are currently cornered here, so honestly, that's not bad here for TaeJa, who's been working with such a significant supply deficit for such a long time, but he's still making this happen. Again, though, add another 9 SCV kills to the tally, and that's just too much. Now the Zealots do have their leg enhancements as well. They are a little bit faster. Classic decides to back up. He does have a whole lot of units. They've been making the extremely slow trek through the middle of the map. Okay, the boys are pulled a second time around. Is there enough for the Terran to clean this up once more? Classic adds even more worker kills to the mix. And even though a lot of these expensive Protoss units are not taken care of very well, I think Classic could keep many of them alive to fight another day. He does not care. At this point, he is throwing bodies at the problem. 22 additional SCVs have died, and that means that only 3 of them remain. 2 of them over here on the low ground, 1 of them trying to return a gas canister to an orbital command. We have some mules mining over here, but the orbital command itself is gonna get blasted apart. Medevacs are fully out of energy. In the case of, well, half of them now, also out of HP. There it is. GG gets cold. Despite the fact that TaeJa won the first 2 maps in the series, if I recall correctly. I mean, the games are starting to blend and blur together. Classic has been taking map after map after map after map. And ultimately, he is the winner of the StarCraft Evolution League and therefore wins the lion's share of $6,100. Well done.